morning, everybody. Thank you very much for the offer, for inviting me to be here today. About the partnership, I do not have too much to say on top of what you already said, but to testify from our side that we are very, very happy with the partnership which we have been developing over recent years with NOVA, and we foresee, or I foresee, that this effort will continue. Thank you very much for the comments you also made. The interest of BPI in Africa is quite relevant for us. We started having operations in Africa in '96 when we, in the privatization of banks in Portugal, we bought Banco Cimento and Banco Oros, and at that time, in '96, Banco Cimento had a couple of branches in Angola and also a branch in Mozambique. And since then, lots of things changed. Right now, we have a full-fledged retail bank in Angola, Banco Cimento Angola, BFA, which is probably the largest retail bank in Angola, so from a couple of branches in '96. Today we have 200 branches all over the country. We have 2,500 employees in Angola, of which 30 are expatriates from Portugal, so we have 2,470 roughly employees which are Angolans, and we have around 1.3 million clients, which probably is around 1/3 of the bancarized population of Angola. In Mozambique, we have a partnership with Caixa Geral de Depósitos. Again, we started in '96 with the branch of Banco Cimento, but then in 2002, I guess, or 2003, we decided, together with Caixa Geral de Depósitos, that the size of the banks we had, our bank and the Caixa, were too small, and it was better to make a joint effort, and then we merged the two banks. And since then, we have developed what I think is a very fruitful and very, very interesting partnership. BCI is the name of the bank, is the second largest retail bank in Mozambique, very close to the first. I think that the largest is a subsidiary of Millennium BCP, which has around 31 or 32% market share, whereas BCI is around 30% roughly. And right now BCI has a total number of branches, I think around 140 branches all over Mozambique. We have around 2,000 employees. The ratio is basically the same. We have around a few dozen expatriates, and the remainder of our staff is made of local colleagues. And the bank, the last figure I got, was around 800,000 clients in Mozambique, which is a fairly large proportion again of the bancarized population. I don't bother you much more about our own figures, but I will share with you some figures on Mozambique and Angola, because I think they are two very interesting examples of financial development in Africa, which is the theme of this session today. Because in both countries, I think we have seen over the last 10, 15 years what I think are very successful strategies of developing a modern, efficient, and profitable private sector, basically sponsored financial system. Let me share with you some figures. Starting with Angola. And the interesting feature is that we are talking about two different countries. In Angola right now, we are talking about a country with a GDP per capita of around $6,000 per capita, which makes Angola very close to South Africa in terms of GDP per capita, whereas in Mozambique, we are talking about a country with a GDP per capita slightly north of $600, which is a total different gap. Angola, a country which has current account surplus over the years, budget surplus, so in financial and economic terms, for the time being, what I would call a rich country, whereas in Mozambique, we are talking about a country with a current account deficit and still dependent very much on international aid. As most of you probably know, the budget of Mozambique is up to 40% financed by financial aid, by donors, by the European and other countries. But to show you some figures, In 2004, and I choose a 10-year period, the weight of deposits over GDP in Angola was 17%. So a very low level of bancarization. By the end of 2013, this figure was 39%. So in a time span of 10 years, it went from 17 to 39%, whereas GDP went from $18 billion to $124 billion. And the other interesting thing is that in 2004, there were in Angola 85 ATMs. In 2013, there were 2,334. In 2004, there were 173 TPAs, point of sales machines. By the end of 2013, there were 31,710. To put it into perspective, if I recall it correctly, I think that in Portugal these days there are around 10,000 ATMs, and probably there are around 60,000 POS, which gives you a relative magnitude of the evolution which occurred. In 2004, there were 172 bank branches. By the end of 2013, there were more than 1,200 all over the country. And in 2004, there were 2,676 people working in the banking sector, whereas in December last year, there were 16,511 people working in the banking sector. And this is a very interesting development, which has been done in a very successful way. I think there were a number of reasons for that. First of all, the authorities conducted what I think is a successful macroeconomic policy. These days, both in Angola and Mozambique, in particular in Angola, inflation is from the single digit, slightly north of 7%. The currency has been basically stable over the last 10 years. And this is a very important context for the financial sector to develop. The second aspect which I would like to mention is that the sector has been very, very competitive with a prevalence of the private sector. So most of the banks are private sector owned or controlled, and this has been a basic source, a basic driving force for innovation. And I would say that although the array of financial products is not as diversified, not as complex as in Portugal, if you go there, you will see that this is a very modern, very efficient, and in some respects, totally comparable to what's happening in Europe. Our bank in Angola has the same skills, the same technology, the same type of resources. The third topic which is very important is that there was an effort in building a proper and efficient payment system. Of course, the development of a modern and widespread banking sector is a precondition to formalize the economy. This economy, the African economies tend to be, the informal sector tend to have an important weight, and one of the ways to integrate part of the informal economy is to provide proper financial services. And so the banking sector is providing a basic, important economic function, bringing into the formal economy larger and larger parts of the population and of the economic activity. The second important feature is to have an efficient payment system. This is absolutely critical. It's one of the key functions that a proper organized banking sector is supposed to perform. With all the implications, both for the opportunity that it constitutes for entrepreneurs and for banks themselves, as it is our case, it is also a major factor in providing the right conditions to conduct another macroeconomic policy. Because if you don't have a proper banking function, a proper banking system function, it's very difficult to conduct, or almost impossible, a proper macroeconomic policy. Also to share some figures about Mozambique. In Mozambique in 2004, the weight of credit, or banking credit, GDP was 13%, whereas at the end of last year was already 34%. The weight of deposits in 2004 was 27%, whereas at the end of 2013 was 44%. In 2004 there were around 300 ATMs. At the end of last year there were more than 1,600, whereas in 2004 there were already 300 branches, 340 branches in Mozambique, whereas by the end of last year there were close to 1,000 branches covering the whole country. And another comment I would like to mention is that probably the two biggest challenges we faced over the years in those two countries were not capital, were not financial resources, were the lack of human capital, so the availability of properly trained personnel, and second was infrastructure, logistics. If one bears in mind that to go from Maputo to Pemba, which is on the north coast to Tanzania, takes you 2.5 hours flight, which is the same as going from Lisbon to Paris, and the lack of proper infrastructure, those were the two biggest challenges, which I think that in general are being addressed, have been addressed in a very creative way by all the players which are there, in a very profitable way, because both banking sectors not only have had huge investment programs. To give you an idea, last year in Portugal, PPI, the total investment tag was slightly north of $20 million, whereas BFA and Angola invested around $45 million, because it's expensive, because of the reasons I referred before. But the way the system has evolved has been very, very successful. And a last word, I think that this is owed to the fact that in both countries, the supervising authorities have done what I think is a very positive role. I think that we are all very happy that persons like José Massano or Hernando Gouveia, the governors of the local central banks, and the local supervisors have done what I think is a very, very relevant and a very positive, have created very positive conditions for these developments to occur. I'm just concluding my remarks that I wanted to share my experience and our experience in Africa, and to tell you that in two countries where the affinities and the interests and the interconnections with our economy and our companies are very strong, we have seen over a very short period of time, because 10 years is a very short period of time, we have seen what I think are remarkable developments in creating a properly functioning modern financial sector. A last word is that in both countries the authorities have been very prudent in developing what we call normally capital markets. And in particular, I would underline the very cautious and very professional way in which the Angolan authorities have developed the so-called Bolsa de Valores de Angola issue. Because I think they are right. Because to develop a proper capital markets activity and to create stock exchanges and so forth, you have to have some conditions previously, and to do it, you have to have a purpose and objective. Otherwise, you can create problems. And I do very much appreciate the way they have very wisely managed the process. So those were the remarks I wanted to share with you. Again, I want to thank Mr. Professor Miguel Ferreira and Nova for inviting us to be here today, and again to testify how happy we are with the partnerships we have been developing with Nova, which I hope that will continue and will lead us to other initiatives. Thank you very much.